This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Theresa Hummel-Krallinger, High Five Performance. Welcome to the program.
David, it's so nice to be here. I miss you.
You and I go way back.
We go way back, early 2000s.
Unbelievable. So let's go back there just for a fun moment. It's 2002 is when I started my business, literally January 1st, 2002. Where were you at that point? We met at ASTD, now ATD. Where were you in 2002? Do you remember?
I started my business in 2002. So I was April 1st, 2002, April Fool's Day.
And I think we'll get back to all of that in a moment. I love that. So, you know what's funny? So when I first met you, and this was true for many, many years, and it's probably still true in some ways today, I'm looking at you and I'm amazed that you were brand new then. Because I'm looking at this woman has it all together. This woman, look at this. I mean, she knows who she is. She knows what she's doing. She seems to be successful. When you joined ASTD, did you get right onto the board?
It was just a couple years. So I was a volunteer that ran their, it was called the T-Learning Conference. I don't know if you remember T-Learning Conference.
Sure.
Technology for Learning. So back in the day, and we're going back almost 20 years now.
I know.
Just having, wireless clickers to respond was a big deal. And the web-based stuff was all brand new.
Yeah.
But that was my first big job with Philadelphia ATD. And then I got on the board, and then I was president 2003, 2004.
There you go. So rapid ascent. Give me a little bit of a background of how you came into the entrepreneurial training world. What did you do all the way up to that launching your business point?
So I worked for Prudential for 18 years.
That's right.
Yeah, I was there a long, long time. And it was a blessing. When I joined the company, I didn't join the training department. I joined, frankly, just to have a job. I just needed to make some money. And I got into what they call the remittance area. So we handled the payments for insurance policies. And I started to do a lot of one-on-one training because I just had a knack for explaining things to people. Eventually posted for and got a job in the corporate training department, and they paid for my education. So it is the gift that keeps on giving. And when you work for a big company like Prudential, you really get the best education. We had Ruth Clark, who she's probably retired now, but Ruth Clark was amazing with instructional design, adult learning theory. And I got into computer-based training when we were still mainframe. Now I'm giving away my age. But I just came up the ranks through training and realized that's where I was meant to be. My last few years there, I kind of knew at some point I was going to hop out. And I was actually hoping they would help me hop out because you got a nice package when they did that. And they did. But I knew I was going to go on my own because I had met some speakers along the way. In fact, one of them. I hired him to come in and speak at Prudential, Alan Weiss. He came in to speak. Anyway, we were paying them back in the 90s, $7,500 for an hour keynote, $10,000 for an hour keynote. This is in 1996, 97. And I thought to myself, I'd like to do that. That's kind of a good gig. And each of them were very gracious. I said, how do you get into this? And they gave me their information. So when I finally did leave Prudential, my intention was just to go out on my own and make money doing speaking and training.
Well, this brings us to another huge, huge point. And I think this has come full circle for the people that came up in the training world like I did and like you did, clearly. So let's look at the keynote business, the conference business, the association business, just the whole meetings industry. It used to be keynote, keynote, keynote. And then when you walked into a National Speakers Association meeting, who were the rock stars, supposedly? The keynoters. And this was 1980s, 1990s, going back to the same era you're talking about. Then the meetings industry started to get smart and said, well, we don't want just the talking head, one-way data dump. We want more engagement. We want more connection. We want more application. We want more relevance. And so now they started to look for more substantive and more content-driven speaking/training. And so even all of the conference and association folks are now looking to trainers who speak more so than the traditional motivational keynote speaker.
True.
And I think now it's the trainers and the people that know how to engage an audience, whether it's 20 people or 2,000 people, get them to do interactive activities, make it experiential, make it tangible, make it memorable. And now it's like the revenge of the nerds.
It
Only
really is.
Revenge of the trainers. So how have you seen that shift between when you were watching Alan and watching some of these Prudential speakers that you've hired and then saying, wow, I'd like to do that, doing your sort of quote unquote work-a-day training, full day seminar, boring, boring, boring. Now you're like, man, that's where the juice is. That's where the clients want to go. I guess I'm asking for advice to speakers who want to do more training and more substance, and maybe even advice to trainers who, like you and me, are now looking to doing more speaking.
I think I am a trainer first and a speaker second, because that's really how my career evolved. So I can't help but be a trainer all the time. So even if you said, Theresa, you have an hour keynote, and maybe your expectation is, I'm just going to be a talking head for an hour, you're going to be disappointed, because I cannot be a talking head. I'm going to talk for a while, share some stories, plant some seeds. I would say, you know what? Why don't you take a couple minutes at your table? I'd like you to find a partner, share with your partner your thoughts on this, and then we'll come back together. I can't help myself but include the audience, either be it a table discussion, partners, and then sometimes I'll say, now that you've had some time to think about this, I'd like a few people to come up to the stage and share their perspective. I just did a conference in Bluebell the other day, and I asked for volunteers. I got to tell you, this conference, no one was shy. I mean, they like rushed the stage. People wanted to share their story. But I think that makes the presentation, makes the program rich to include the audience. So I can't do it any other way.
Yeah, no, that's really, really huge. Now, I also want to go back to your initial strategy, because you left Prudential, you went out on your own as independent trainer, speaker, coach, consultant. In the early days, I'm guessing, if you're anything like me, you would do any gig, any topic that you felt you could do: leadership, sales, customer service, time management, hiring, firing, performance management, whatever. And obviously you had a huge Fortune 500 background in all of that, which I personally did not. But, I was like, yeah, let me study the book tonight, and I'll do the time management program tomorrow morning.
So true.
Talk about how that has evolved, as far as, do you ever find it necessary to have a niche or have one specific topic that you owned? Or are you just rocking and rolling as, here's my bouquet of investable opportunities, and I can go leadership, I can go disc, I can go customer service, I can go wherever the application of that expertise makes sense?
I think folks need to know really what is their area of deep expertise. And it's not that you can't step out of it, but it's easier for you. The audience knows when you have depth of knowledge. So I'll give you an example of early years mistakes. And I think you almost have to make the mistake to learn not to do it ever again, because you need to feel the pain. So disc is a big topic for me, and I do disc really well. And I consider myself really, I think, a thought leader in disc, at least in the Philadelphia area, if not nationally. So that's my topic. So I go to a company, I do a good job with disc because it's my thing. They love me. They say, you know what? We would like to do a gender differences in the workplace workshop. We want to send you to Manhattan. We've got an office up there. We would love for you to do that. So David, to your point, I think to myself, I could get a couple books, read up on the topic. I'm a woman. I've worked with men. I'll figure it out, put a little PowerPoint together. Okay, let's just be honest. It was not good. It was not good. And the reason it wasn't good isn't because I'm a bad speaker or bad trainer. I didn't do my research. It's not who I am. That is not my topic. Now, there are people who that is their topic, and they're going to rock it because it's what they do all the time. They have depth of knowledge. I did not. And you know what was sad is I never got another gig with them again. So I won the love because disc is my thing. Then I did gender differences in the workplace, which is not my thing. I really don't have a problem with gender differences in the workplace, and I never have. But I picked up the topic because I thought, oh, I'll figure it out. No, you don't. So now everybody knows, don't ask me to do gender differences in the workplace. I'm going to put it right out there. It's not my topic.
Anything else, though, you're good.
No, David, I have actually, and this is what you have to learn. Like, what if somebody came to me and said, hey, I want you to help us with marketing speakers? Well, I'm a speaker and I do marketing. Sure, I could probably wing it. Why would I take that when I know someone in my circle of friends that's their thing? That's their thing. And there's an abundance of work, despite what people may say. There's an abundance of work. I'm going to reach out to you and say, Dave, this is your gig. And if you come across anything where people are looking for disc or they're looking for training technical managers, that's my thing.
Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless.
I also want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey because you and I have this in common. And it's funny, a couple of my most recent guests have had this in common. And it was a huge, huge learning blessing. It was a learning and a blessing. During your entrepreneurial time, you went back on the inside.
Yes.
During my entrepreneurial time, I went back on the inside. When I look back on mine, I would not be in the business that I'm in today if I didn't have that experience, those skills, that insight that I got going back as an insider about 40% into my entrepreneurial thing. I was like, wow, this is really hard. I can't figure some stuff out. Or, I'm just getting exhausted. And I found this fantastic dream job, like you found your fantastic dream job that we'll hear about in a second. And you're like, you know what? This is the best deployment of my skills, my talents, my effort, and my energy. And you totally blossomed in there like I totally blossomed in my thing for about 13 months. What did it feel like to go back in? What were some of the ego concerns? Like, oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm a schmuck. I couldn't believe I couldn't cut it. All that head trash that turned out completely not to be true. How did that affect you? And then talk about that inside gig that you did for a few years.
So my intention was never to go back inside. And whenever you say I'm never going to do something again, you do it, right? So I leave Prudential. I'm like, I am never going back inside again. Not that I hated Pru. I loved Pru. I loved it. I still have fond memories. I just told myself, you don't belong working 5 days a week in a corporation. That's just not who you are, right? So then I get a client and we click. Like we just click. So I start to do a lot of management training for them, which is wonderful. It all starts with DISC. Then after we do DISC, we start to get into other topics, performance management and delegation and motivating your staff, all of that good stuff. Well, not long into our engagement, they reach out and they say, listen, we'd like you to join us full time. And I was very strong about it. I said, no, I'm not going back inside. But let's think of a way that I can meet your needs, but not be a full-time employee. So we came up with this deal where I would work 2 days a week in the office. And I had flexibility. So if I got a gig somewhere else, I could say, listen, I'm going to work Tuesday and Wednesday this week and Thursday and Friday. So I had lots of flexibility, but 2 days a week in the office for a premium, frankly. I mean, it was good money, making more than most people make in their annual salary. I was making working 2 days a week. Sweet, right? Sweet deal. About 9-10 months into that, I'm now fully ingrained in the organization. I have an office. I've got friends. We do coffee breaks. So the president of the company, a Northern Irishman, he says, Theresa, you seem quite happy here. I'd like to revisit the question. I know we probably can't pay you what you're worth. I'm going to be upfront about it. But I think you're quite happy here. We'd like to have you join us. Well, I don't know if it's the Irish accent, getting comfortable going into the office 2 days a week, but I saw an opportunity to build depth of knowledge in an area that I really wanted to be a thought leader. And that is changing organizational culture for the better, turning the ship so that the behaviors that they want to have are now part of the culture. I want to do that. And that's what I did. So I did take the full-time gig. I kept High Five open, and I still did an occasional keynote. I still worked at Temple University and funneled my contract money through that way. But I went inside. We did a culture project. We had a high turnover rate. We turned that around. We won Best Place to Work PA 2 years in a row, Top Workplaces Philadelphia. We won the first Chief Learning Officer Magazine award for excellence in training. So a lot of good, to your point, a lot of good came from that time of going back inside that makes me a better consultant and a better trainer today. Now, I knew by 2010, it was time to hop out. Like I'd done what was needed to be done. They were drinking the Kool-Aid. It was time to go. I was comfortable. I mean, they were flying me to Ireland 3 or 4 times a year. I was going to San Francisco a couple times a year. I was speaking for the DIA, the big drug conference, every year, going to nice places. It was very comfortable, but I knew better. I knew better. And by 2012, I turned in a letter of resignation. By 2013, I was back out. But it made me a better consultant. Now I have pharmaceutical background, and I do work with wonderful clients in the pharma industry that I would not have otherwise.
I'm going to change gears again. You know, we could be talking here for days, and we probably will be talking here for days. You have an alter ego.
I do.
There is a secret side that's actually not secret, which is what makes it awesome, is that you have been studying and performing stand-up comedy for decades.
Yeah.
And talk about how, because you do this better than anyone I have ever seen, truly. You bring that aspect of your personality a little bit into your work, but mostly adjacent to your work, so that the comedy leads to business. Some of the business leads to comedy.
Yes.
And I don't know how you do this. It must be some voodoo. You have them beautifully partitioned, but perfectly integrated. Talk about how that came to be, or what your philosophy is on that.
Well, 2002 was a big year because I started my business in 2002, but I also took an 8-week stand-up comedy class at Montgomery County Community College, which was life-changing. So, never discount the value of a non-credit class at your local college, because it can change your life. So I take this class, I have 5 minutes of material, and I start to build. Before long, I have 15 minutes, and now I can go and be a paid MC. So I'm doing comedy all over the place. But in the beginning, I told people, don't talk about the comedy. Don't bring, like, I'm a serious corporate chick. I'm doing serious corporate work. That's kind of a silly thing to do on the side. What I've learned, and it's funny, I build it into my introduction now. People say, Theresa, what do you do? I said, well, I work with organizations to create places where people want to work. I train their managers and leaders. We work on corporate culture. And on the weekends, I get paid to make people laugh. What do you think they care about, David? What do you think they care about?
How do you make people laugh?
That's it. Are you a comedian? Yes, I am. That's amazing. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, I don't make a lot of money doing that. I'm going to be upfront. And it's not that they don't care about the training and the speaking and the culture work. It's a differentiator. It's like, wow, I'll bet she's a funny trainer. I'll bet she will make us laugh when she speaks. And I get business because I'm a comedian on the side. It's crazy. Who'd have thought?
It's amazing. It's really great.
Is.
Well, and also sometimes I know if you're doing a local gig and this comes up on a break or over a sandwich or something, you might even invite a corporate client or a corporate audience member to say, oh, it's because if they're asking you about the comedy, you're like, yeah, I'm doing a show on Saturday. You're welcome to come. And now you start you're putting your business audience into your comedy audience.
Yeah. But I warn them, I'm like, I just want you to know, it's a little different. I mean, The comedy is a little different
than
the corporate stuff. I mean, I'm very conscious of HR and, we're in a business environment when we're at work. But what's interesting is every now and then I have a client who says at the end of the workshop, are you going to do a little comedy for us? Would you do some comedy? So then I look at them and I'm like, everybody, eye contact. Nobody's going to HR. Nobody's going to HR. Okay. All right. So then I'll do, 5 minutes of just simple, easy stuff. And they are delighted to have a little comedy. I love to be like, here we are at the main room at Prudential. So delighted to be here with you. Craziness.
And then you do the whole cruise ship buffet thing.
Yes, and it's crazy. I've been doing that same bit for 17 years. It still gets a laugh.
It's awesome. It's totally great.
It still gets a laugh.
What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar.
So now your comedy is categorized as clean though, correct?
It's not squeaky clean,
Ooh.
but it's clean. Here's the thing.
Clean but spicy.
I teeter on the edge. No, so it's clean enough that I do a lot of Catholic fundraisers, and there's really a small posse of us that can do the Catholic fundraisers because you have to know your audience. You have to be smart about, like, if you're going to cross the line a little bit, be smart. Don't just do it willy-nilly. Obviously, no F-bombs or bad language. But I do cross the line. Like I open with a joke that tests the waters. I open with a joke and I say, my husband and I just celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary. So everybody applauds. And I say, and I don't know if you can see this. And I wear this really humongous cubic zirconia. It's hard to miss. And then of course the spotlight catches it. And I say, yeah, he gave me this ring. Oh, it's cubic zirconia, which, as we all know, is a fake diamond. So I gave him fake sex. I like to call that pubic zirconia. So frankly, that's a silly, stupid joke. It truly is.
I'm laughing.
But if they laugh, I'm like, all right, good. Now that sets me up for other stuff that I have to do. Right. If they don't laugh, if I feel the air get sucked out of the room as their butt cheeks clench tightly, mentally I'm thinking, all right, we're going to have to let some stuff go. But I always tell them, I'm like, that's my test the waters joke. And you guys seem to appreciate that. So we can go down that path. You had a great bit about who moved my cheese.
Yes.
And what was the follow-up to who moved my cheese?
You move my cheese, I break your freaking legs. Something like that.
No, your bit was great. It said, the follow-up to who moved my cheese is who gives a rat's ass.
Oh my God, that's right.
David, that was a great bit.
Oh my God. That was my anti-corporate rant, because the job that I had just left back in 1999, they had this massive change. They totally destroyed the culture, getting back to your topic of expertise. Yeah. But every single employee got a copy of Who Moved My Cheese in their mailbox. Wow. So you basically sit down, shut up, and stop complaining. So
that was a great bit.
I have to revise that. People sometimes when I speak or present, they'll come up to me afterwards and they'll say, oh my gosh, you're so funny. Have you ever thought about doing stand-up comedy? And I said, well, thank you. I took a course because you got me into that course.
Yes.
But I said, I'm not a stand-up comedian for the following reason. I consider myself mildly funny. What you want is a mildly funny consultant. You do not want a mildly funny comedian.
No.
You want a funny comedian. So that's not me.
Yeah. And as you know, I mean, comedy is so much harder than speaking because you really need to make people laugh about 6 times a minute.
Yeah.
And I hate to make it all scientific, but truly, if you watch a clip of somebody like Seinfeld and just keep a stroke count of the laughs for about 5 minutes, and then divide that by 5, you're going to come out with anywhere between 9 and 11 laughs per minute for somebody like Jerry Seinfeld. Think, how the heck do they do it? Because they're smart. They have a short setup, nice punchline, lots of taglines and facial expressions to keep the laughs going.
Right, exactly. Well, and just not that we're talking about stand-up comedy, but I think this definitely ties into speaking and training. Comedy, and I didn't know this, and you knew it, of course, but I didn't know this until I took the class. That is 80% about the writing.
Oh, totally.
It's 80% about the planning, the thought behind it, and then writing it. And sometimes the difference between doing a joke in 9 words versus 7
is huge.
Is enormous.
It's huge.
And they're like, oh no, I'll just kind of approximate. No, you want to approximate. You need to do it exactly that same way, exactly that gesture, exactly that pause, exactly that enunciation. Otherwise it doesn't work.
Thank you for noticing that, because I think people think it's just very free flow. And I know when I do a joke and I switch up the wording, or the pause isn't the right way. The other night I was doing a set in Northeast Philadelphia and I lost my place. I had a cold, so I think I had a little brain fog. So I was like, oh my gosh. So in my head, I'm like, just do whatever comes. Just do whatever comes. Think about it. So I move and I do the Quakertown Mart joke. And I'm like, oh, and as I'm doing it, I'm like, you know what you forgot? You forgot suppository lady. You forgot. But I was able to hop back and do it, but it changed the set because there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to it. One thing builds on another. But fortunately, I've been doing speaking and training so long, like I didn't freak out up there. I'm just like, how about that? You don't even know what comes next. That's all right. It'll come to you. It's like two trains of thought, the one that's delivering and the other that's planning for the delivery.
Right. Absolutely. Now, you're involved in Toastmasters? Yes? No?
I used to be. I was very, very active with Blue Belt Toastmasters, probably, I'd say about 12 years. And I recommend that when people say, I'd like to get into speaking, say, first, you need to learn how to speak. Toastmasters is a great place to do that. Once you know how to speak, if you want to do this for a living, then you should join NSA because then they're going to tell you how to sell your speaking. And also at NSA, I think you also have a program to help people polish their speaking and really build their platform.
Yes.
So
lots of great programs, both nationally and, of course, at the chapter level, wherever you happen to be. There's the 36 chapters of NSA all around the country. Yeah. So, but you'd recommend Toastmasters was a good experience for you. You really milked it for everything it's worth for those 12 years.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's a structure that builds. So first, it's just getting you comfortable on your feet, just so that you can get up there. There's a 4 to 6 minute, they call it the icebreaker speech, where you talk about yourself. And then you practice, opening, closing, building the speech, motivating people, doing something where you have to use a prop. So you get to try out all these different things because it's part of their curriculum. And then you work your way through the curriculum and you get different letters after your name. But you learn not only from delivering your speeches, but you learn from watching others deliver their speeches. And you think to yourself, holy, was that brilliant? That was brilliant. Look at what she just did there.
Yeah.
Or you learn like, see what he's doing? I don't even think he knows he's doing that. And then they have the person that evaluates the speech. So you're going to learn from that. Bang for the buck. Toastmasters, best public speaking course out there. Bang for the buck.
Bang for the buck. Absolutely right. I want to ask you about what is next on the Theresa Krallinger High Five performance. Are we working on a new program, a new product? Is there a pivot coming up in your business that you're excited about? What's cooking?
There's a couple things. One, I have had an idea in my head for a long time to write a book about crazy HR situations because there is an abundance of them. I lived through so many, both my experience at Prudential and at Almac, but my HR friends, like we all have stories. So I'm partnering with a guy, Lou Lessig. Lou and I are going to put together a book and we're collecting stories. We had a whole bunch of our own. We probably could have written the book just with our stories, but we're collecting those stories. We're going to put it in a book and we're going to use that for keynotes and workshops and just to help our HR friends laugh a little bit, but also learn from how to deal with some of these crazy situations. That's one cool thing that I'm working on that I'm looking forward to. And that'll be hopefully 2020, that will be out. The other thing that I'm doing, this is crazy, you may not even know I'm doing this, is I'm booking people for a show on PBS 39. So my comedy friend, Grover Silcox, has a show that he tapes at Daddy Pop's in Hatboro. And he has 3 guests per show. It's called Counterculture.
Daddy Pop's is a diner, correct?
Yes, it's a diner.
Just so people know, this is not some nightclub. This is a diner.
It is.
With the coffee cups on the wall, on the hooks.
Yeah, it's like the traditional diner. Like if you were going to draw a picture of a diner, you would draw Daddy Pop's. It is awesome. So he sits at the counter, which is why it's called Counterculture, and interviews guests that are performers. So, of course, we have a lot of our comedy friends, singers, poets, authors, historians, just anything to do with the arts and culture. So I booked the guests for that show and have learned a lot about putting together a TV show, which, by the way, is fascinating. Just the videography and the sound and the editing. We have an editor, this guy, Kelly, who's a magician. Because I watched the raw interview and then I see what he comes out with and think, what a magician this guy is. Probably like your editor for this show.
Exactly right. We're turning this into a 3-hour PBS special, even though we're only talking for about 40 minutes. It's going to be great. They slow us down a lot.
Oh,
so
wow.
Go back to the TV show for a quick second. Where can we see this if we're not in the Philly area? Like, is this online somewhere, these episodes?
It is online. So if you go to WLVT Counterculture, you'll find all of our episodes that have been aired. And I'm proud to say I was a guest on the show. This week we aired Tuesday night. And so it's going to be shown again, I think, Saturday and Monday. But you can always go on the web to WLVT Counterculture and you'll find I'm episode 10. So you get to hear my stories about meet the author at the Pyramid Club and some of the work that I do and also comedy. But definitely tune in. I think in the Philly and suburban area, you get Channel 39 on cable. You'll find it.
Probably, yeah. And it's WLVT for Lehigh Valley Television, WLVT.org.
Yes, that's it.
Counterculture is what we're looking for.
Yes. And if anybody has suggestions for folks that might be good on the show, I mean, Grover and I have quite a list, as you can imagine. So we've got a list and we're working our way through the list. But we welcome suggestions. Like if you know somebody who's in the arts or is a performer.
They could be anywhere in the country or they should be in the Philly area.
We prefer them to be local. It's nice if we can have the local folks. But hey, if you're going to bring me somebody who's a Hollywood actor or nationally known person, we are delighted.
If George Clooney wants to fly in, that's okay?
We would be delighted. I know I personally would be very delighted to have George Clooney fly in. I may bump Grover for doing the interview and say, do you mind if I do this interview?
There you go.
Grover, like
move over. Scoot over, buddy. This one's mine.
That's right.
I love it. Well, Theresa, I'm going to have 2 final questions for you. The final question is going to be, how do people get connected and stay connected to you? The first question before that is, if folks were to take one central idea from our conversation today, what would you hope it would be?
I think it's know who you are and make sure that you're not taking on work that isn't who you are, that's going to tarnish your brand. But balance that with always be working on deepening your knowledge in whatever it is that you do. The best thing you can do for your business is be awesome at what you do. That is the best thing you do. All the marketing, all this other stuff is great, but you have to be awesome at what you do. So that would be the message I would hope people would take.
I can't help but agree. Now, how do people get connected and stay connected to all of your adventures? High5performance.com. We're going to link all of this up in the show notes when people go to thespeakingshow.com. Right under this episode, where do you want to link us up to?
It's definitely high5performance.com. I also have a website called meettheauthorpc.com. So, and you've got lots of author friends. I host an event at the Pyramid Club, and that's another great place that we can connect. Every month I'm there doing my Meet the Author series. I'd love connections on LinkedIn. So go out to Theresa Hummel-Krallinger on LinkedIn. And as long as you let me know, hey, I saw you on David's show. I usually don't connect to complete strangers, but if you say, this is how I know you, I'm happy to accept the connection and stay in touch.
The secret password is The Speaking Show. And then Theresa will connect with you on LinkedIn.
That's it. Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Thank you, David.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It was awesome. And we need to we're both so crazy busy. We need to just get a meal. We need to just get together and share a meal.
At Daddy Pops.
At Daddy Pops.
But no cameras, no Grover, just Daddy Pops, the coffee, the pancakes, all of that.
I love it. Best home price. You'll love them.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.